Today I'm talking about every movie's greatest fear, bombing at the box office. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. So today I got a very interesting tier list. I'm going through all of the biggest box office bombs of all time, at least the ones that I've seen personally, and ranking them in tier lists. Because the funny thing about box office bombs is sometimes movies are awful and they bomb, and sometimes really good movies bomb at the box office. So there is a mixed bag of movies all across this tier list. But before I get into this thing, be sure to hit that like button, comment down below your favorite movie that has bombed at the box office. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 85,000 subscribers here on the channel. And check out my Patreon link down below. Anything goes a long way. You get the Discord server, extra access to videos, early videos, all that good stuff. But let's just dive right into this tier list. Alright, so the tiers I have today are S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and F tier. I omitted the E tier because it was always useless to me. It is what it is. These movies are fully randomized, so let's just dive right in. First, we've got The Flash. This is one of, if not the most recent box office bombs on this list, and The Flash was a big bummer for me. I went in wanting to love it, wanting it to be a home run for DC, and it just missed the mark. I enjoyed the film a lot more when I first saw it, and then about 2/3 of the way through of my first viewing, it really fell off the rails for me, and I was being a little too kind to it. I was like, oh wait, no, it's not that bad, it just really falls off in the end and left a sour taste in my mouth. With more time, it's been about over a month now since I've seen the movie. It's regressed so far for me. Keaton's Batman is a saving grace, but even then, this is such a miss for DC. I'm going D tier with The Flash. The movie is not good, and again, as more and more time passes, the less I like it, which is never a good sign. Next, we've got The Lone Ranger. This is a Disney live-action film starring Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer, and it's a huge financial loss for Disney. I saw the film in theaters opening weekend. I used to go like this summer. I think it came out in maybe 2013. Either way, I went to the movies a lot during the summer. It was a big thing me and my friends would do, and Lone Ranger was one of my more anticipated films, and I barely remember it. It was about 2.5 hours long, damn near 3 hours. Was that necessary? Absolutely not. The fact that I barely remember this movie, but I remember a lot of other Disney live-action films from this era, might just be a sign that it's actually not that good. I think right now I'd probably watch The Flash over it, so I'll go D tier with Lone Ranger, and I don't really care for The Flash, but it has Keaton's Batman and memorable enough moments. The Lone Ranger, I barely remember the film at all, and if I went back and watched it now with my 23-year-old mind, you know, I probably would have significantly more issues with the movie. Even when I saw it then, I didn't really like it that much, so that's how you know it's probably not all that. But anyway, next we got Power Rangers. This movie came out in 2017. It stars Dacre Montgomery, Bryan Cranston in a voice role. Other than that, I kind of forget who the supporting cast of this one is. I got dragged to the theater see this one with my buddy at the time. He was like, let's go. It was like $5 at the theater near us. It was like $5 Sunday or some weird deal. So we ended up going. And the movie, again, was not very good. I can't go F tier with it because there's some charm and charisma with the cast, but genuinely, this movie was an unpleasant time for me. I am not a diehard Power Rangers fan, so if you are, let me know what you thought of this one down below. But we've got another D-tier movie, and I'd probably have to put it in the middle. We'll split the difference. I'd watch it over Lone Ranger because of Dacre, who plays Billy in Stranger Things. But other than that, I'm good. I'm good off that Power Rangers movie, and I don't think we're ever going to see a sequel. Next, we've got Chaos Walking. We got our first F-tier entry. It's going at the very bottom of this tier. This was a dreadful watch for me, and it's weird because it has Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley. Daisy Ridley carried the sequel trilogy, Tom Holland is Spider-Man. On paper, it should work. It's directed by Doug Liman, who did The Bourne Identity, and I believe he did, what was it, Edge of Tomorrow, I want to say? So he's directed some big action movies, and this one was just such a miss. Mads Mikkelsen, I want to say, is in here. Nick Jonas has a role, so it's got stars in the cast. The story is just so bare bones and boring. It's a dreadful watch, and I feel as though Holland and Daisy Ridley are giving it their best, but even then, they have not much to work with. This movie is so dreadfully boring. Moving on, we got Solo: A Star Wars Story. A movie that when I first watched it in theaters, I was so dismissive of. I would say it doesn't feel right, unnecessary, you know, it doesn't have Harrison Ford. Probably the worst Star Wars movie. I had all these thoughts running through my mind, but then I went back and rewatched it last year, and it was transformative for me. It was a completely new viewing experience where I was able to appreciate it fully. Alden Ehrenreich embodies the Han Solo energy, and it's a neat little origin story. There are some cliche things that I'm like, that was kind of stupid, we need to have that in there, but it's a space adventure. It tells its own little story in the Star Wars universe. Sure, it tries to tie tie into the overall Skywalker saga at times, which isn't the most necessary thing. We should be able to just have a one-off Star Wars story. Not everything needs to be connected in this big old timeline, but the action, I mean, it's really great, I have to say, especially the Kessel Run scene. That's a really neat little callback to a throwaway line, essentially, in the original Star Wars. There's heist vibes, it's a space adventure, and it just feels very Star Wars on rewatch to me. It's slept on. I'm going top of B tier with Solo. I enjoy this one quite a bit. Now, do yourself a favor. If you haven't seen this one in a while, give it another shot. Because with a lot of movies, especially a movie of this caliber, a big Star Wars movie, there's this expectation and hype going in, but once all that goes away and the online buzz or hatred dies down, and you go back and rewatch some of these movies, they can definitely climb up, at least for me personally, in my enjoyment. So give Solo a shot if you haven't seen it in a while. But next we've got Wonder Woman 84. This is a stinker, one of the worst from the DCEU. I watched this film on Christmas Day 2020 on HBO Max because it did the same day release as theaters and HBO Max. What a disappointment. I really loved that first Wonder Woman movie when I saw it in theaters, so I had high expectations for this. You're bringing back Steve Trevor. You got Pedro Pascal as the villainous character, even Cheetah introduced as a villain. There's way too much going on. The main villainous storyline is so beyond stupid, it's incomprehensibly stupid, actually. Everyone's gotta make a wish, and you gotta make wishes, and the world's falling apart. I am not a fan of this movie. I'd go F tier, but I'd probably watch it over Chaos Walking, just because it has the Wonder Woman character. Next, we've got West Side Story, the 2021 version directed by Steven Spielberg. I love the original West Side Story film from the 1960s. It was a Best Picture winner, and I've really warmed up to this version of the film. I saw it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 in theaters. I said it was really good, but it didn't, you know, wow me as compared to the original, but the more I've sat with this one, listened to the soundtrack, and rewatched it, it's really gone up on my list. In fact, when I look at the rest of the films on this tier list, this is an S tier movie. I'm putting it up there right now. I mean, this is a Best Picture nominated film. It's an Oscar winning film. The music is stunning. The choreography of the dances is stunning. Even Spielberg's direction. There's this like one take where they walk into the gymnasium. Really brilliant that he pulled that off. I really like this movie. It's grown on me so much. I had it at a 4.5 out of 5 last time I watched it. It might even be a 5 out of 5. It's a really great movie. And I think it is actually better than the original now in retrospect, so I gotta go S tier with the new West Side Story. What a picture, as Martin Scorsese would say. Next we've got Onward. This is a criminally underrated Pixar film that came out about a week or two before the pandemic hit, when movies and everything in the world shut down. So it went under the radar and ended up getting dumped on Disney Plus a few months later. So not as many people got the opportunity to see this one in theaters, and I feel like a lot of people still haven't seen this movie. It's this really powerful brotherhood story, and I resonate deeply with it, having an older brother. I really admire this movie. It gets the tears swelling every time. I cried every time I watch this movie. It's funny at times. You've got the charisma of Chris Pratt and Tom Holland and as Ian and Barley. Their voice acting on screen works, and all around this is a slept-on Pixar movie. I would honestly say, again, if I'm looking at the competition here, this is bordering S tier. I'll go top of A for now. Onward's like damn near top 10 Pixar for me. It's always rotating my Pixar ranking, but it's high. And I know that a lot of people dismiss this movie, but I think years from now, 10, 15 years, people will revisit this one and look back on it fondly and say, wow, this is Pixar's underrated gem. Next, we got Space Jam 2, aka Space Jam: A New Legacy. You guys already know this is going in F tier, and I honestly would have to say it is, where in F tier? Wow, I probably would go at the very back, meaning it is the worst movie on this list so far. This is an offensively bad movie with a horrible main plot involving Algae Rhythm, Don Cheadle's character, and above all else, the movie ruins the game of basketball. It makes its own rules and takes away the fun of the sport, any competition, really. It was stupid. This was a movie that exists to throw all the Warner Brothers IP at the wall and hope it clicked, and it just missed the mark fully. You can't recapture the magic of the first Space Jam, and the first Space Jam's not even that good of a movie. So the fact that Space Jam: A New Legacy exists, it baffles me. But anyway, next we've got Sahara. This is a Matthew McConaughey film that bombed at the box office, but it's one that I grew up watching. I had the DVD in my house, and I've seen the movie probably over 10 times in my life. I would watch it on car trips. I would watch it growing up. It's a very action-packed movie. You can see the budget shining through, so the big budget didn't pay off, unfortunately. But I like the chemistry amongst the characters. Rainn Wilson has a small role in here. William H. Macy, Steve Zahn, Penelope Cruz. Really star-studded cast. It came out in 2005. I enjoy the plot. It reminds me sort of like an Uncharted Indiana Jones vibe where McConaughey plays sort of this treasure hunter character. And honestly, this is an A-tier movie for me. I would go like right behind Onward. It's an A-tier movie. I haven't revisited this in a long time. It's one of those movies where I'm very scared to go back and watch it because I might be looking at it through rose-colored glasses where it's not good, but I have the nostalgia. I hope that's not the case. Like, I hope one day when I do revisit Sahara that I actually like it and I'm not, you know, having issues with it. But I can remember vividly all the major scenes from this movie. I loved it growing up, so maybe that's nostalgia, maybe not. If you guys have watched Sahara recently, let me know if it holds up in the comments down below, but it's going A tier for me as it stands right now. Next, we've got The Man from U.N.C.L.E., a Guy Ritchie movie that I've seen one time and underperformed at the box office, unfortunately. I would have loved to have seen a sequel to this. I've seen it once. It has Henry Cavill, Armie Hammer, and I forget the actress. I think it might be, she won the Oscar. What's her name? I'll think of it, but she's Tomb Raider. Alicia Vikander, I believe, is in this movie. I will go C tier with this film because I enjoyed my time with it. It wasn't the most memorable thing. If anything, it was a display as to why Henry Cavill should be James Bond. That's all I have to say about that. It's suave, it's got the Guy Ritchie style, but it never was too memorable for me, so I think C tier feels appropriate. Next, we got Green Lantern. I remember vividly watching this movie at home for the first time with my dad, and I was like 12, 13, whenever, you know, it was on demand or on cable, so I had recorded it, and I literally paused the movie and we both said, like, this is bad, let's not finish this. I ended up going back and finishing it. However, at that young of an age, having the knowledge and awareness to say a movie's this bad, that's a sign that it stinks. It's going F tier. I honestly would probably still watch this over these two movies just because of the memes and the fact that it's Ryan Reynolds and I can make fun of it. These two movies are like trying to be good and that's what makes them so awful. I take Green Lantern. Yeah, I honestly think I could watch Wonder Woman 84 over Green Lantern. Next is 2021's The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn, my favorite DCEU film. And you guys already know this is going S tier. I honestly would probably go top of S tier with it right now. This is again, my favorite DCEU film. It subverts expectations from the start. Not only is the film hilarious, bloody, and action-packed, but again, it keeps us guessing because no character in this film is safe. Peacemaker's despicable in this, but then the show adds so much more depth to his character. You've got Rick Flag, who's an awesome sort of leader of this group. Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, is outstanding here. Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba's got this gritty edge to him. Then you've got the comedy of Polka Dot Man and King Shark. Even a character like Ratcatcher 2 you really feel for. And that's what's so masterful about this movie is that James Gunn takes these random, obscure characters from the comics that no one's really even heard of and brings them to the big screen, allows us to feel for them, warms our hearts, and honestly, makes us big fans of them. So I'm a huge fan of the Suicide Squad. It deserves a spot at the top of S tier as it stands right now. But next we got Christopher Nolan's Tenet, a bit of a divisive Nolan movie. I recently posted my Nolan ranking you guys can check out, and a lot of people, you know, either love or hate this one. I myself love this movie. I saw it opening night in theaters and I went back the next night and watched it again. To me, this is an S tier movie. It's damn near a 5 out of 5. It's like 4.5 range, and honestly, this is my personal ranking. I'm putting it at the top of S tier. I love Tenet. Robert Pattinson's character is so cool. The visual effects of this film blow my mind, and the narrative is really complex, but diving into it and sort of studying it in a way makes it so much more rewarding to watch. It's a brilliant movie that showcases the scale of Nolan when it comes to his action and just mind-blowing story. All around, I'm a huge fan for Tenet. I'm a defender of this film, so it was always going to be an S tier. It was always S tier for this one. Next, we got Black Adam. This is another stinker for DC, a movie that came out in October of last year, totally bombed at the box office. It was supposed to be this hierarchical changing of power in the DCEU, and it just totally fell off. I think it's stinks. I can't even be nice here. I think it stinks, and honestly, I'm gonna put it in F tier. I would probably watch it over Wonder Woman 84 right now. They're so bad, and I think I made a DCEU tier list, and the order of these two might have been switched, but they both stink. Next, we got Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which has not ended its theatrical run just yet, but the movie is still in theaters, and I think it had a $300 million budget. They never fully gave us the number. It was estimated around $300 million. It's only made about $338 million worldwide as it stands right now, so it's in the red right now, pretty bad. I'm gonna put this in C tier, top of C tier. I love Indiana Jones. I'm looking at an Indiana Jones shrine right here. I've seen all the movies multiple times, including this one. This is the most flawed to me. It has the least charm or sense of adventure where I really just am fully invested in the main story or artifact they're going after. And the main reason here I think that is the case is because Steven Spielberg's not in the director's chair, and it feels a little bit Disneyfied, where everything is sort of dumbed down and it has that Disney look to it. And even the third act is just insanity to me. So there's enjoyment to be had here. Of course, I love the character of Indiana Jones so much, near and dear to my heart. I had monumental expectations for this one and disappointed. It still has its highlight moments, but it is a middle-of-the-road movie. Don't hate it, don't love it at the same time. Middle-of-the-road C tier feels appropriate. Next, we've got John Carter, another Disney movie that lost a lot of money. Taylor Kitsch this is the first time we're going to talk about him, but he had a run of just being the main man of some box office bombs, unfortunately. I'll go C tier with John Carter, right in the middle. This is one of those movies I was so excited to see in theaters. I think it came out in around 2012, 2013 time period. I was stoked for this one, and I enjoyed it enough, but as time went on, I never really went back and watched the film. I think I rewatched it for the first time ever in like 2020, so I've seen it 2 or 3 times in my life, and there's fun to be had. There's great concepts, and visually the film looks amazing. That budget, especially for the CGI, is on display, and it shines through, but I look at this movie and I go, it could have been so much more. It could have launched this whole franchise, and there was a lot of promise. It had some great ideas, but they weren't executed the best. It's enjoyable enough, but a little forgettable. C tier feels appropriate for John Carter. Moving on, we've got The 355, which came out early last year. I think it was the first movie I watched in 2022. Not a fan. It's a sort of generic spy thriller. Sebastian Stan plays a bit of a villainous role. Great cast. Jessica Chastain, Diane Kruger, Penelope Cruz, I believe. Even Lupita Nyong'o, I want to say, is in this movie. So a star-studded cast. The movie was just really like not that good at all. I'd go D tier with The 355, where, I mean, honestly, probably, this is tough, probably right here. Again, I go to Keaton's Batman every time I think about comparing a movie in D tier to The Flash. I would just watch his scenes if I had to rewatch that movie. I would take it over The 355 because of Keaton's Batman. Just know that. None of these movies are really good. Next, we got Battleship. I've watched this movie once. It also stars Taylor Kitsch, based on the iconic Battleship game. Just stupid. There's some decent action. I think I watched it like a sleepover once, and then I watched it another time on TV once. I can't go F tier just because I don't remember it well enough to throw it down in F tier, but I'd say D tier feels appropriate. Probably somewhere like right here. You know, just not memorable at all. And how did this movie get greenlit for such a massive budget? Honestly, mind-boggling. Next, we've got The Last Duel. This is one of the rarer films on here, directed by Ridley Scott. It's written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, stars Adam Driver, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jodie Comer or Comer. Wow, is it star-studded. It's a heavy movie. It does one of my favorite things narratively, where we get to see events unfold from different characters' perspectives during different acts of the film. I was really engaged with this one and remember enjoying it quite a bit. I would go top of B tier with The Last Duel right now. I can't go A right now because it's not as fresh on my mind, and it did drag on a little bit. It was a little too long for its own good, but a really solid watch at that, and it had a huge budget, but it really underperformed at the box office because it came out in a heavy loaded October month of 2021. And last and maybe least, we've got The New Mutants. This is an X-Men film technically, but you always forget about it, or at least I do when it comes down to it, because it doesn't have X-Men in the title. It released during the pandemic in 2020, and it just stinks. It's got Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Heaton, who plays Jonathan in Stranger Things, the actress whose name escaped me that plays Arya Stark in Game of Thrones. Loaded cast, but the movie was a terrible time. I'll go top of F tier because I think it's so short that I'd be willing... Actually, I can't even do that. It's so bad, I actually have to put it like right here. I think for the memes, I go Green Lantern over New Mutants, and then these two movies are a little more well put together. New Mutants was a dreadful watch. Myself and then 2 other people were in the theater opening night. It was a movie that I have forgotten, and it tried to be a horror movie at times. Weird that this movie exists, and I remember it was delayed so many times. This was even before the pandemic. Just kept on getting delayed, went through production hell, and that shines through with the final product. But that's going to do it for my tier list ranking of all these box office bombs. Definitely a bottom-heavy tier because if a movie stinks, it's more likely to bomb at the box office. But yeah, let me know down below your ranking of these box office bombs. What's your favorite on this list? What's your least favorite? Hit that like button. Again, comment down below your thoughts on these films. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 85,000 subscribers here on the channel. And check out my Patreon. Link down below. Your support goes a long way. But that's going to do it for this tier list. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.